All right. So this isn't going to be a rambly car talk. I've actually got a pretty cohesive idea that I think we can have a bit of a discussion about on the way to legs today. And what that is in relation to dieting. You know, as much value as there is to knowing the rules, come on, that's not what we really care about. We care about how much can we get away with breaking them. You know, so okay, you know, I want to get lean. Obviously, if I ate only, 250 grams of protein worth of chicken and let's say 4 ounces of broccoli every meal evenly throughout the day, I can guarantee I would get lean. I would lose body fat because I'd be in a deficit for sure. I mean, I could count the macros, but like, why bother? If you knew that you were only eating half a pound of plain turkey breast and 4 ounces of broccoli 5 times a day, not only can I guarantee you're going to know that's not going to be enough food to make you fill up. If you try doing that, yeah, you are going to feel hungry for sure. But that's not realistic. That's not how we roll. We're not just a computer going through a process, because there's the subjective side of just being, where you got some pretty damn strong evolutionary needs to eat. Your body is telling you, eat some food, man. You are starving. So how do you get around that? And not only that, in the context of like, all right, well, let's spice things up. Bust out the fat-free cheese. Bust out the low-sugar barbecue sauce. Bust out like a diet soda. Little things like that is just, basic dieting tricks. There's also, okay, look, I'm interested in this dieting thing, but what happens if I want to go crazy? What happens if one day I want to say, screw it, I don't want to count my calories, I just want to eat, I don't even want to think about it, I'm going to eat as much as I'm hungry for. Frankly, I'm going to eat till I feel sick. How many times can I do that? And I think there's an answer for you. So, over the course of this so far 2.5 month dieting phase, I think, because I'm at now, actually no, 3 months. So now I'm at day 93. I've been easing my way down. So the first month, really I was just eating when I was hungry, because I was coming off of a bulking phase where I was eating a ton of food, like basically force feeding, eating more food than I was really hungry for. So for me to suddenly stop forcing food, now I'm eating less. So the first month, pretty easy. I tracked everything, and after those first kind of 3-4 weeks or so, I was averaging about 3,300 calories. I was doing 30 minutes of cardio in the morning, and that was about, what I was doing on average to bring me down from like a peak bulked weight of like 260, immediately drop 10 pounds of carbs and water, and then steadily get down to like a 260 or like a 255, 253-ish. But after that immediate weight drop, now eating 3,300 calories a day and doing 30 minutes of cardio a day, that wasn't enough to keep losing weight. That was now my new maintenance for that weight of like 255. So over the course of the next 4 weeks, I had to decrease my food intake. I had to drop it from that 3,300 down to like 3,000, make that my new max. Then a little lower, even down to like 2,600. And that was over the course of like that second to halfway through the third-ish month. And then now I've reached the point where I got to hit about 1,900, 2,000 calories, and then do 2 hours of cardio a day, an hour in the morning, and then an hour post-workout consistently, if I want to keep getting leaner. Because over the course of a dieting phase, what's going to happen is your body is always constantly trying to adjust to whatever amount of food that you're eating. Like if I was somehow locked up per se and only given 2,000 calories to eat every day, eventually I would lose enough weight and then stay a certain weight, because now 2,000 calories is just how much food I need to stay that same size, right? Eventually my body would adapt to it. So if I want to continue losing weight, I'm going to have to decrease that over time. And it's a slow process, but here I've got a little picture of just going from the end of October to the beginning of January. That's a pretty substantial difference. Like looking at that, that's definitely bulked, and that's definitely cut. right? But on a day-by-day basis, I wouldn't even notice any difference. Like, it's very subtle. It really doesn't change that much. So that's where the problem is. Sometimes, you know, not seeing any results on a day-by-day basis, it can be a little bit demotivating. But what I'm trying to get at is every day that I stuck to a calorie deficit, made sure I didn't, go too crazy. I ate that number, was whether it was 2,600 or 3,000 or now getting all the way down to like 2,000 or so. If I hit whatever that number is and I stay in my deficit, then every day, slowly, I'm going to burn through some of my spare energy stores in my body fat, right? So if I'm trying to, run a marathon, or I don't know, a really good, it's kind of a hard analogy to make because it's like a long-term thing. But let's say every day I need to walk 3 miles. I'm doing like a slow trek or something, or I'm going cross country. Every day I got to make it 3 miles, and then at the end of it, I need to reach my goal, which, let's say it's to go 50 miles. And that could be, let's just relate that to, I'm trying to lose 20 pounds of body fat, right? So every day I'm burning through, over the course of 4 months, what is that, like, I don't know, whatever. Let's say 0.1 pounds of body fat every day. So every day that I stick to my deficit, do my cardio, and don't overeat, I'm gonna take a little step further closer to my goal and burn that 0.1 pound of body fat, which is completely negligible on a day-by-day basis, but over time will begin to seriously add up. So what I'm getting at in terms of, okay, just how strict do you have to be? You have a little bit of wiggle room, that's for sure, because cheating on your diet, overeating like crazy, is essentially halting that progress and halting that fat loss. Because the whole point of dieting at all is limiting the amount of food and energy that goes in through your mouth, right? Food, and then making your body use energy that it's already got stored up, like your body fat, as energy to just keep yourself running as a machine. So if you eat a crazy amount, let's say you've dieted down, you've lost 10 pounds, or let's say you've only lost 5 pounds, which is still pretty substantial, and you do that in 2 months, and you've been steadily declining, you've been good, you've been locked in, you've been hitting those numbers and not overeating anything. If you had a day where you just said, I don't want to count any calories today, I just lost 5 pounds over the last 2 months, let's just go nuts today, I don't think you could ruin it. You could not ruin your progress in one day, unless you ate like 1,000,000 freaking calories. Like, you could even eat 5,000 on like a total splurge day and say, oh my God, Jesus, I went freaking nuts. And, as long as that was enough to get it out of your system, and then for the following, subsequent month, you got back onto that calorie deficit and you stayed under those numbers, then you'd be good. In terms of your morning weight, that would just be a little blip, and then you'd get back to your progress. But the problem is, you don't get a lot of those. You don't get a lot of get out of jail free cards with the dieting. You can have maybe one totally go nuts, eat as much food as you want day, probably every 8 weeks. Like, if you're really into a legit calorie deficit, you're losing about 1 pound of body fat per week. I'd say you're good for once every 2 months. You can really say, I don't even want to think about it today. I want to eat whatever I want. I'm going to Cane's. I'm going to Crumble. I'm getting some Sheetz spicy chicken sandwiches with all the fixins. Like, I'm eating today. I'd say you probably got one of those every 8 months. So it's not something you can really cheat too bad. Most of the tricks that actually end up working for me aren't like, okay, how many more good days can I have before I have a crazy day? It's more so, trying to fit in like calorie smart treats on a day-by-day basis. Stop when you're at the store, stop by like the dieting section of things with all the protein powder and the vitamins, and get a couple of look around for some of the Quest bars or like the protein cookies or little things like that, where, the macros aren't insane. It still has like 14 grams of fat and like 10 grams of carbs, with 20 grams of what is whey isolate. So it's not like trash protein. I probably wouldn't recommend you only eat like 10 of those every day as your protein source, but once every so often, that's totally fine. So I'm more concerned with making sure every day I have some treats like that that are just cohesive with my dieting goals. Because if I do that, then I don't develop that urge to totally go nuts and have an insane cheat day where I just have to eat everything in freaking sight, you know? So for every time that I eat a bowl of scrambled egg whites with like a chopped salad and the fat-free cheese and the barbecue sauce, or like plain ground turkey or plain ground chicken or any or plain ground beef with with any sort of like diet-friendly, like sugar-free teriyaki or sugar-free whatever, that's usually coupled with, on the side, like a little bowl of frozen berries with some like sugar-free chocolate syrup on top, or I mean just like a straight diet soda to sip on to kind of get a little bit of a sweetness kick. Like doing that consistently for me at least works, and that's not something which I suddenly knew out of the gate. It's just, something I've kind of been practicing with. So before you can get to the point where you're really good at like, intuitively eating and tracking your macros and everything else, or like knowing what macros you need to eat on specific days, then that's where I would just recommend get a macro tracker. Maybe look up a YouTube video like how to count my calories, or how to calculate my look up calorie counting for muscle growth. There's a million like maybe not a million, but there's at least a solid handful of like multi-million, like high production, very easily digestible videos talking about counting your protein, counting your calories, counting your cardio, everything else along those lines that are going to come into play with your body fat goals or your body fat loss goals. And then, just try to practice it. For just one day, try to count all the calories that you ate. Don't even limit it. Like, don't even try to be extra good because you're counting, because, I'm watching myself now, I'm counting I can't have any treats now. Like, just every time you grab a little, like, handful of Skittles or a handful of, like, pretzels or something out of the fridge or out of the pantry, if you have a food scale, even better. That'll make that process a lot easier. Just try to count everything. Just try to track all those macros, and then, before you know it, you'll start to have a little bit of a sixth sense. I always reference it like I took the red pill. Now instead of just looking at a plain meal or a handful of candy or anything, I have a pretty good estimation of just how many fats, carbs, and proteins are in all this food. And it's not like a magic sort of trick or anything. It's just practice. So now if you handed me like a quarter-pound burger from a restaurant, I can look at the bun, I can look at how much mayonnaise is on it, I can sort of tell just looking at like the greasiness of it and the size of the fries and whatever kind of, like hamburger sauce is in a little dish as like a dip or whatever. I've got a pretty good estimation of, okay, a little bit on the greasy side plus the mayo. Yeah, I mean, that's 40 grams of fat right there for sure. And that's a pretty thick bun. With the potatoes, with those fries, dude, you're talking 100 grams of carbs on this plate. And then, it looks like they kind of skimp me. That's definitely less than a quarter pounder. I really only looks like 20 grams of protein. Or something along those lines. To the point where I'm kind of surprised nobody's done a what do they call the price? Like the calories are right, like a Price is Right kind of remake, where you put lifters in front of like random plates of meals, and you make them guess the exact macro content, like fats, proteins, carbs, of what they're looking at. But all that's to say is the root skill, which you're going to build from, that's going to make all this dieting much easier to grasp and to implement for you, is going to be that tracking. Because if you don't have those numbers and you're not really knowing how much food is even, being consumed for you for the whole day, then you're flying blind, So when you couple that with tracking your morning weight every morning, especially if you write it down and you really track everything. I'll go through periods where I enter all my morning weights into like Google Sheets and stuff. I haven't really done it for a little while. I should probably get back onto it. But, I know, okay, crap, man, I've been 233 or like, 233, 233.5, 234 for the last week. Crap. I got to step it up, man. So that means I better decrease the calorie intake, and then sort of adjust from there. But that's all I got to say about that. So plan for the lift with legs, hamstrings, quads, adductors, calves, the usual. So we'll just kind of explain that as we go. I had some decent luck starting with cable RDLs 2 leg days ago. So let's just maintain that approach. And this is light. Like this is, in the scheme of things, this is a light squeezing set, right? Like instead of starting with a skull crusher, I'm starting with a light rope extension. At least, you know, the hamstring. Oh my God, okay. Yeah, let's just do a few more of those. A very different feeling than a hamstring curl, that's for sure. So, as much as I love hamstring curls, you're probably missing out if you're not having any hip hinging hamstring focus work in your lifts. Okay. A few more. Actually, probably 2 more to get a bit more specific. Okay. One more. Okay. All right. Yeah. If it's a good one, I might only need 1 more set of freaking slaying curls. Did I say laying curls? No, I meant seated curls. So let's try to make this one nuts. Okay. Oh my gosh. I think that's enough. Let's get some leg extensions started. Yeah, those freaking RDLs did more damage than I expected. Like that last set of seated curls. Let's just say that amount of weight usually feels like nothing. But I'm cool with that. So alternating 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and then we'll just go from there. There we go.
Oh, goodness. Let's try a double leg set next. Same basic approach, though. Oh, goodness. All right. This will be pretty exhausting squeezing set first. Oh my God, okay. Holy crap. Oh. If this next set is good, I think I'll be able to call it there. But let's just see how good it really ends up being. Okay. Oh my God. Oh my gosh, yeah. Quads are cooked. And by cooked, I mean as fatigued and pumped as I would expect for my calorie intake right now. Whew. Let's go pose them down. And then I'm not done. I've still got adductors and calves. So I think today I'm going to take it a little easy on the cardio and just call it at the, I'll see how I feel later. But right now, I really don't think it would do me any good to do an hour of leg-based cardio right after that lift. So I think I'll save that for later. Maybe just do 30 minutes on the bike at the apartment gym. But let me let's refocus a touch. There we go. Nice and in focus. So, not a lot. Hamstrings was pretty solid, but quads I'm really kind of just going easier on. And it's not for no reason. It's just because to do anything too crazy, strenuous, it just ends up freaking stressing out my system too bad, you know? And that's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm simply trying to maintain the quad development I've already got, not break it down beyond freaking repair. Now, when I'm eating 5,000, 6,000 calories a day, I've got a bit of a different perception towards them. But let's just see how they're looking here. So solid amount of separation. Let's do a little kind of flex. Oh yeah. This left one especially has the fanciness going on. The right one's got some, like it's not none, but that left one's grain, or the left one's grain department is definitely where it's at. But good thickness, getting progressively leaner, and then the hamstring quad separation is only getting more and more freaking defined. And honestly, looking at them, whoa, those some new calf veins I've never seen before. Oh, goodness. Well, all that's to say is I think quads are coming along reasonably nicely. But honestly, looking at them pumped isn't really the best representation right now, because all the really cool shit is when they're unpumped and the gaps and lines and little feathering and muscular detail is a bit more apparent. And that's usually, you know, pre-morning cardio. But for you, let's get in the car. For me, I'm headed back up. Gonna camp out on the adductor machine and the seated calf raise. Listen to some music, listen to whatever, and then I'll see you in the Camry.
There we go. Legs complete. More than reasonably pumped. Now all I get to go do is chill. Really, my primary objective is actually lack of action, lack of eating, which is it's actually harder than you might think. I've kind of been bouncing between thinking if it's easier for me to bulk up or cut down, and that is a pretty varied spectrum, because for, I would say, probably the majority, it definitely leans towards it's a little easier to bulk up. You know, it's easier to put down a ton of food and just, you know, keep scarfing it. That's kind of what we're wired for. But for some, bulking up gets pretty tricky, you know, like actually eating more than you have an appetite for. It's like, it just makes you feel sick, you know? So that's one part of lifting in terms of the genetic side of things, or potentially your just upbringing, where sometimes it's maybe not unfair, but unbalanced, you know, because some dude can, you know, come work out pretty consistently and then have a super crazy low appetite compared to the next guy, and then he's going to be walking around lean 24/7 as if he were actually like constantly dieting. Because for him, like, that's just kind of his baseline state. Like, he doesn't really have a huge urge pushing him to eat more food, you know? And then for somebody else, a little bit on the heavier side of things, where, you know, it's just start eating, you know, big meals, everything else. Or if you were raised real kind of tough, like finish your plate, whatever, you know, I'm no food psychologist, but, you know, for whatever reason, some guys have a harder time backing off, putting the fork down. And it's not something to be taken lightly, because it is pretty freaking hard, you know? Like, if you really want to get strict about it, it's hard to just dip your toes into dieting one way or the other, bulking up or cutting down. You really do have to kind of go full bore if you want to see those results. So for anybody who has an easier time bulking up, hey man, you're going to be bigger, you're going to be stronger, but you're going to have a trickier time, you know, when it comes when lean season comes around. That is, if you even want to, you know, get yourself leaner. Not everybody really does. And then for anybody who's a little bit on the skinnier side, at least in terms of body fat, I'm not talking musculature, and then for them, hey man, you know, from an outside perspective, people are going to think, oh dude, you're so freaking spoiled, man, you're always lean year round. But, you know, some guys are walking around like 160, pretty lean, like muscular, like I would say pretty impressive and good looking. For them, you know, it's a little bit harder to beef up, so they've got their own set of problems. So it's not like, it's just something that you've got to be able to look at your own situation about, you know. So if you've got an easier time bulking up, you're gonna have to put more effort into cutting down when that time comes around, and vice versa. But it's not a situation that's completely beyond your control. You know, it might feel like that, especially if you've never really gotten into it before. Like guys where they say, oh, I got a crazy fast metabolism, bro. I can't gain weight no matter how hard I try. If that guy ate enough food, then he would start gaining weight. You know, but it definitely feels like a monstrous amount. So it's kind of just an exposure type situation. But if you can recognize your weaknesses like that, then it becomes a little bit easier, or at least you've taken a good step towards trying to work on them, because identifying a problem is step one to actually solving it. So getting back to what I was saying, for me, I'm kind of right in the middle. Like, honestly, I've done it long enough, which gives me an advantage because I've had a lot of practice bulking up and cutting down. So I do have a bit of, I'd say, yeah, I mean, I would say a higher skill level at regulating my diet like that, just from having gone through the process. But I'd say when I was younger, I would lean towards, obviously, the easier to stay leaner side of things. But now I'm kind of right in the middle, where for the first few months of dieting, I'm like, man, dieting is so freaking easy. I got no problem doing this. I love it. And then towards the end, like where I'm at now, this is definitely not a passive state that I'm in. Like, this is requiring some pretty serious effort. And then vice versa. The first 2 months or the first 3 months of this next bulking phase that's going to come after this is going to feel like butter. I'm going to say, oh, holy crap, I can eat so much food. This is great. I love it. But once it starts getting hard, that's when I'm going to say, oh, all right, crap, man, it's noon. I've only had 1,000 calories. I better eat a big meal. Better have a big lunch. So it's just something where you got to recognize the state that you're in, you know. So that's kind of all I was getting at there. But 5:06. Oh my goodness. I was about to say I'm getting ready for bed. Not exactly, but probably wouldn't be a bad move trying to turn in early. Not like 6 o'clock, you know, 7-year-old man early, but earlier. Frankly, I don't remember the last time I went to bed before 9 o'clock, but I would not mind if that's how tonight ends. Because the longer I'm sleeping, the less time that I'm, sitting in the house thinking about food to grub on. So post-workout meal, I'm probably looking at a bag of steamed broccoli with some melted fat-free cheese on top, some salt and low-sugar barbecue sauce, paired with 8 ounces of ground lean turkey. I think that I don't think there's any fat in that meal. There might be like a gram or two spread across the whole thing, but pretty low, because there's no fat in the broccoli, there's no fat in the fat-free cheese, there's no fat in that barbecue sauce, and the lean ground turkey breast, or well, I guess just lean ground turkey, I don't know what cut it is, that's like 99.1%. And when I cooked all that, I gave it a real good strain and kind of a squish in between 2 layers of paper towels. So if there were any oils floating around, I think I got most of them out. So, yeah, that's the plan for the rest of my night. And I can already tell that my legs are freaking thrashed. I might be due for another freaking rest day kind of soon, you know? And that doesn't really surprise me. I mean, in a state where I'm eating a ton of food and I'm already kind of used to the daily training, then, you know, working out on the regular, especially in a bulking context, that's just par for the course for me. But now getting into such a steep deficit with so much cardio, the stimulus of the actual lifts could be kind of overreaching to the point of, gradually just increasing my fatigue day by day by day. So don't think I'm anti-rest day, you know. When they're necessary, they are necessary. I just kind of lean towards the side of maybe overdoing it just for the sake of making sure that I go far enough, because, you know, if I don't feel like I really need a rest day, I don't want to take a rest day. You know, maybe that's just a chip on my shoulder kind of thing, but it's just how I've been rolling ever since day one. So I think that's all I got there. I have a chest day tomorrow, which I'm really excited about. If I had to pick, and I usually say that I'm kind of, impartial, because obviously all lifts are cool for their own reasons. But if I had to pick one, I do think chest is probably my favorite. Especially the pose down, the pump check afterward, because with a chest pump, just the whole process of doing a chest day it sort of turns into a full-on frontal torso pump. Because obviously, chest is going crazy. Shoulders got a little bit of work from acting as sort of stabilizers for most of the movements, so they've got a little extra blood flow. Doing any kind of fly-based movement puts some tension on my biceps, so they get a little bit of work as well. And then any pressing movement, I guess if you were a serious, mind-muscle control or mind-muscle connection like Buddhist, then you could do a chest day with no tricep activation. But I'm not at that level yet, so my triceps get a little bit of extra blood flow too. So at the end of a chest day, especially in like a crab style, most muscular, oh jeez. Well, I just love it. So I'm sure I'm gonna have a dream about the chest workout tomorrow. So I wonder if that dream is gonna turn into a reality. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But that's all I got. Hopefully you're enjoying your snowy season if you're in a climate like that. I know I am. It's definitely a bit more scenic than just, gray mugginess, right? It's not freaking October anymore. It's not November anymore. We're talking January. This is full-on freaking winter Shredathon type action. But now I'm just rambling. I will see you for a chest day tomorrow.